Hello students and family members, this is Mr. Panza. It's time for our measurement assessment. So tonight your students may be coming home with a review paper, where today you will measure and review. Specifically, we've really been focused on converting units of measurement, determining area and perimeter, and the question that's not listed, which is the first one on your assessment, is this top question here. The best estimate for units of length, weight, and capacity, or mass if we're talking metric. So if we're reviewing, you're going to see a lot of these estimation questions pop up. Let's answer those first. Here are the first three. Which is the best estimate for the length of a pencil, 10 millimeters or 10 centimeters? Well, in this case, I told the students to try and remember or recall the hand and body motions. They remember that a millimeter is mini millimeter. A centimeter is about the size of a pinky centimeter. So in this case, millimeters is very small and a centimeter is medium because after centimeters I have meters, which is a meter to my seats, and the longest one or biggest, which is a kilometer to sheets. If you can't remember these, please check out the videos here on my website to make sure that you know the songs, hand and body motions, and everything else. Because once you have those down, you can see that 10 miniature mini millimeters is way too small to measure the length of a pencil, and the most reasonable unit of measurement here in metric length would be 10 centimeters. Or if you took your pinky, the nail of your pinky, and stretched it across 10 times, you'd most likely get the length of the pencil. The same strategy can be applied for questions 2 and 3. Which is the better estimate for Smoketown to Sheets? On 30 East, are we talking about 1 mile, which is very, very big, a long distance, or 1,000 inches, which is still long, but keep in mind we're talking about inches. So inches are small because inches are thumb pinches. To review, in customary length, an inch is a thumb pinch. After an inch, we have a foot, which is spreading your hands. 12 inches make up 1 foot. 3 of those feet make up 1 yard, which is about the length of a long football step. And then if you jogged for 10 minutes, you'd get to a mile, which would be jogging 10 minutes in style 1 mile. So if I were to start jogging from Smoketown to Sheets, it would probably take me about 10 minutes or 1 mile. That is a more reasonable unit of measurement to use when compared to 1,000 inches. So 1 mile makes more sense. That's what we're talking about when we talk about reasonableness. Does it make sense to measure something really, really long in inches? No, because it's a small unit of measurement. It makes more sense to measure in miles because it's much longer. Question 3. Which is the better estimate for length, 4 yards or 4 feet? Again, this is customary. So if we're talking about the length of a car, or you can think about a truck, a bigger car, would be smart because these are 2 medium measurements. Feet is a little bit smaller in medium and yards is longer in medium. I want to use the one that I'm going to use significantly less for. So if I took 4 regular rulers, which would be my 4 feet, it would never span the length of a car. But if I took 4 yard rulers, it's possible that that one would, which is why even though both of those are somewhat reasonable units of measurement, 4 feet would never equal the length of a car or truck. However, 4 yards would certainly equal that length. We'll come back to the conversions in just a second, but if you flip it over, you can see similar questions for grams and kilograms. Notice that I marked the grams as small because we told the students that a gram is about the weight of a paperclip, and I marked the kilograms as big because we remind the students that a kilogram is about the weight of a ton. And again, all of this is discussed in previous videos here on the webpage, so if you need a review on that, just check out those videos. Now you just have to think, is a refrigerator big or small? Well, it's obviously big. In this case, because big matches big in kilograms, I would measure the refrigerator in kilograms. Bunch of prunes, or about the size of grapes, is small. Small matches small, which means this would be measured in grams. Same thing could be used for 12, 13, and 14. Tons, pounds, ounces. The first thing I would do is I would mark ounces as small, because that is like 1 slice of bread. Pounds is my medium measurement. That's like 1 full loaf of bread, and 16 small loaves or 16 small slices of bread equals 1 pound. And then a ton is very big. That's like 2,000 pounds. So the weight of a car would certainly be big, but don't put big. You want to mark it as tons. The loaf of bread, like we mentioned, would be most closely related to the medium weight, which would be pounds. Lots of students are interested to find out that pounds is shortened as lbs. Sorry about the ugly writing. The weight of a golf ball, very, very light. So that would be in ounces. Ounces is what we would weigh the golf ball in. A couple of word problems here we'll get back to, but I wanted to jump into the area and perimeter. When I see something like this, and I do have to make a quick change, this shouldn't be 36. I'm sorry, yes, it should be 36. What am I talking about? Here's why. This is a rectangle, this is a square. Given the fact that this is a rectangle, and I know that opposite sides, meaning the bottom and the top, are not just parallel, but they're also equal, tells me that this top side is 8 kilometers. And given the fact that a rectangle's opposite sides, meaning the left and right, are not just parallel but also equal, this is 5 kilometers. Now I need to just remember, area is length times width. Plug it into a calculator. Or use your touch points and your skip counting song. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, then I'm through. It's got to be 40, not 42, Mr. Panza. Keep it together. And perimeter is just adding all of the sides together. 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 5 is 26. Now in this one, I'm trying to figure out the length of the sides, no longer the area. They actually give me the area. The surface area, all of this space in here, is equal to 36. Because this is 36, and I know that the area is length times width, I have to find a number that can be multiplied by itself to equal 36. Well, the only one that can do that is 6. Because if you remember the skip counting songs and stories, 2 6s walked into the desert, they became thirsty 6s. So my length and my width are both 6 because 6 times 6 are 36. That's the length of the sides. And because this is a perfect square, different than a rectangle where only opposite sides are equal in length, every single side on this square is the same exact length, which means to solve for the perimeter, I don't just add 6 plus 6, but I also have 6 up here and here. So 6, 12, 18, and 24 would be my perimeter. My area of 36, my length of sides would be 6, and my perimeter would be 24. Before we back up to the conversions, let's take a look at these 2 word problems. Mrs. Panza ate 50 hundredths kilograms of strawberries every day for 4 days. How many grams did she eat in 4 days? The first thing I would do, I would take 50 and I would multiply it by 4. Drop down my decimal, drop down my 0, and it would be 20. Put in the correct place value. That is 2 and 0 hundredths. That's the amount in 4 days that she ate in kilograms. So she ate 2 kilograms in 4 days. But the question is asking me how much she ate in grams. So I'm going to have to convert this to grams. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. In a very similar question down here on the bottom, I had 9 liters of cola. I drank 8,000 milliliters in a week. How much cola was left over? The first thing I need to do is actually convert the 9 liters into milliliters. And then once I know how many milliliters I drank, I can subtract whatever I drank, the answer, and subtract the 800 that I did drink. I started with 9 liters and then I drank 8,000, so I'm subtracting that to find my final answer. So whenever I convert it, I just plug it into this subtraction here. So let's talk about conversions. How do we take 2 kilograms and make them grams? How do we make the answer here into milliliters, my 9 liters into milliliters? All of the steps can be found on the front part, the part that we skipped. Here are steps for converting units of measurements. You need to know and write down the basic fact. I'm never going to leave you without that. In fact, they're right here on the worksheet. And then you need to place that basic fact underneath the question or underneath the conversion, making sure that the units are matchy-matchy. In other words, they must match up. If it's grams, grams need to be on top of grams. And if it's kilograms, kilograms must be on top of grams. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. Then you need to multiply. Here's the chant that will help you remember that. Big to small, multiply them all, or you divide small to big It's a division gig. So in other words, if my unit is getting smaller, meaning going, say, from feet to inches, it's starting at a big unit, going to a small unit, multiply them all. Big to small, multiply them all. However, if I'm going from a small unit to a big unit, inch to, say, feet or yards, I need to divide because small to big, it's a division gig. So let's put these steps into practice. The first question, 6 meters to how many centimeters? Well, in this case, I've got to find the basic unit. My metric units, my metric basic units are over here. Meters to centimeters are right here. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So step 2 says place this basic fact underneath the question and make sure it's matchy-matchy. So I have 1 meter, I have to put meters on top of meters, equals 100 centimeters. Centimeters on top of centimeters. And now, because I know that a meter backing up to a centimeter is getting small, I need to multiply it all. Big to small, multiply it all. If you can't remember the chant, then just look. You will never use this 1. You can cross it out to multiply or divide, which means to connect this 6 to the 100, I have to crisscross across this question. That looks like the multiplication symbol. So I just do 100 times 6 and get the answer, which is 600 centimeters. I convert them and get 600 centimeters. Same can be said here for inches to feet. I'm starting small to big in this case, however. So how do I make that a division gig? Here's how. I need to find the basic unit of measurement. If I have inches up here, which would be in length, 12 inches must go directly underneath 60 inches. And my equals 1 foot must be directly underneath 1 foot. And because I'm started at inches, small, going to big, feet, small to big, it's a division gig. I can actually see that this is kind of like a fraction, and a fraction is nothing more than a division question in disguise. 60 divided by 12 will get me the fact that 60 inches is equal to 5 feet. I'd like you to try that bottom one on your own, but then I also want you to be able to apply it to not only the word problems, but also these problems to the right, number 7, 8, and 9. Take a look. The questions are asking which is either more, 3 miles or 5,800 yards, or less, which is less, 3 yards or 6 feet. You eventually have to circle which one you believe is more or less. But we don't know that because I can't compare miles to yards. I have to convert miles to yards and then figure out which one's greater. How do I do that? Follow the steps above. The steps above tell me find the basic unit of measurement. Well, in this case, I've got to find miles, then write it directly underneath the question. Miles to yards. In metric, or customary length, I should say, 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. Miles under miles, 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. And now because they are across from each other, I'm going to multiply. So for those of you that don't have a calculator at home, or on your computer or anywhere else on your phone, I'm going to plug it into my calculator here at school. 1,760 times 3 miles gets me 5,280 feet. But remember, that's not what the question was asking me. 5,280 yards, not feet, Mr. Panza, making a couple of mistakes, as always. I've got to determine which is more, 3 miles, which equals 5,280 yards, or 5,800 yards. In this case, this one is more, 5,800 yards. So you can apply it to other questions once you know how to convert consistently. Just like these questions down here. Let's convert kilograms to grams. I know that there is 1,000 grams in 1 kilogram. So convert it. Multiply, because 2 times 1,000 would get me 2,000 grams. In other words, I ate, or Mrs. Panza ate, 2,000 grams of strawberries. Convert liters to milliliters. 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. So I'm multiplying again. 9 times 1,000 is 9,000 milliliters. And then subtract 9,000 minus 800. Thanks, and hope this video helps.